Hey, welcome everybody. Today, my name is Matt. I'm with MiniWorks, and today I have a very special guest, a really good friend of mine from Mastercrafted, the man himself, Kyle. What's up, Kyle?
How's it going, man? I'm so glad that you've got me on here and we can
Me
talk
too.
today. So
Heck
yeah,
yeah.
it's an exciting time. Kings of War 4th edition just launched. So we're a
Yes.
few months into that, and I think that there's already some hot topics and some things that are worth discussing. So that's why we're here.
Excellent. Yes, we are. We're here to talk about shooting today. But if you would, tell me a little bit about yourself real quick, and we'll get right into it.
I think a lot of people know me at this point, but I work for Mantic Games. I've been there. I'm going into my 8th year now, so it's been a while. It's shocking to hear that. Yeah, it's I got into Mantic because I was playing Kings of War. I had the channel Mastercrafted with Caleb and with Jesse, and we did Kings of War videos because we wanted to promote the game. I found something that I loved and wanted to get it in front of a larger audience, and so that was the goal. And early days, it was just having fun and rolling dice and showing how entertaining and exciting this game can be. That's what we did. When there was a chance to officially be a part of Mantic, I wanted to hop on that, so now I'm there. I worked with the rules committee quite a bit as sort of a liaison in version 3, where I would do communication back and forth between the studio and the actual rules committee and the testers, just to kind of coordinate. I didn't do much with the rules then. It was literally just I was their contact point.
Right.
And then for 4th edition, they had me working with Alessio pretty closely, just as a speak for players. Like, there's not a whole lot of people at Mantic that play Kings of War, unfortunately, so they needed someone who knew the game from a company perspective and from a player perspective. And so Alessio used me to bounce ideas back and forth on, and we tested things a lot early on, and Matt worked with him on kind of structure and bigger rules, but I was the testing board, or I was the throwing board for the core rules of the game. So I'm now no longer part of development. So we got the rules done, and I'm taking a break. So with 4th edition, I'm not plugged into the rule stuff at this point, which is kind of nice in a way, because I can get back to just enjoying it. I don't have to think about it from that internal perspective. So anything from here on out, you can't blame me. That's the way I see it.
We can't blame you. Yeah, I won't. I promise. I'll blame something else, like a giant or something on the table. I don't know.
What's cool though is that I can speak my mind. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like I can say what I think it is, because it's not like I have to wear the Mantic hat. I can say now as a fan, because I'm not doing anything with it.
Perfect. That's exactly why we're here today. We're here today to talk about the big giant elephant in the room that has been shooting phase, or ranged phase, where I have heard from so many people, shooting is either super strong or too strong, or the other camp where they say, oh, shooting is ruined, range phase is ruined, oh, it's all boom, it blew up the game because we can't route anybody off the table. I, for one, I'd like to push my troops across the table, and I'd rather get wavered than explode off the table and go, well, there goes my game, so, but that's me personally. But there's a lot of people out there that say one thing or the other. I have yet to hear the middle, which is myself, my opinion. I'm in the middle because I enjoy the heck out of the wavering, because I don't route off the table, but it is a heck of a lot harder and easier to deal with some units. And once you kind of figure the balance out a little bit, I'm starting to figure it out. I don't think a lot of people have figured it out yet. They are doing that, and that's the great part about a new edition. But is shooting deadly? Is shooting weaker? What is it, Kyle? Tell us, please.
I don't think I can give you a definitive answer on that. But basically, we saw a few things when we talked about in the previews. A lot of folks said this is going to kill shooting. Shooting is going to be way more challenging to get. And to see on the table in mass, you're not going to see people be so devastating with it the way that they were before. And that was a third edition perspective. I think that when we were looking at it internally, Alessio liked the idea of a stationary unit getting a benefit, and he liked the idea of cover negative modifiers, the -1 to hit from that, those two being a very easy math equation. So it's +1 -1. They either cancel each other out, or you get one bonus or one hindrance. And so when he was designing the core rules, that was a lot of what he was thinking, behind the scenes of what it looked like. And for some players, they see that and they say, that doesn't make as much sense. It made more sense to penalize moving instead of standing still. And I can see it both ways, because mathematically it's roughly the same. There was a point in the list development where I suggested that we needed to go through, look at the units, their range stat, and make sure that if a unit was hitting on a 4+, we would move it to 5+, because obviously if there was going to be a +1, 4+ would move to 3+. And so I remember a day where Matt and I sat on the big Excel list and all the design in the background and said, oh, we need to change all these, and we bumped everybody up in their stats. And at some point in the list design process, some units got knocked back down to 4+, and that means there are 4+ shooting units. And there's the Chakrams and Zerkali. There's obviously the River Guard. That was the big issue with the recent tournament in Texas. And Dustin Howard, who is a notoriously very good player, who came in and saw something in the game and said, this looks really good. I'm going to take it and I'm going to dominate with it. And he did.
River Guard Spears, man.
Yeah. I mean, really nasty list. I mean, he combined it with a few other things. You've got the command orders in that list that can make it worse as well. You've got the enthrall potential from characters, and guys like Hector were rolling damage while you're moving stuff around. You've got the Leviathan. What's it called? Leviathan's Bane or something like that. The war engine, basically, that shoots a harpoon that can pull you. So there's these push-pull mechanics that get things into range, that can pull them out of terrain, to ignore cover. There was a lot of ways to go about it. And, internally we saw that and we looked at it and we were like, this seems like a really cheap unit. What's going on there? And somebody brought up, oh, we don't have them paying for their range stats. It was a free upgrade. So they immediately are putting that into an FAQ. The FAQ was supposed to be out at the end of January, start of February. We're now at mid-February and it's still not out. So yeah, it's due, because there's things in there that are genuine errata like that, where there was a mistake and it needed, some kind of a fix to it. And there's probably other things that we still haven't caught in that sense, in the same vein, because you never know when that sort of thing pops up. So that was, one of the first red flags. Oh no, this is a problem. We still see some units that can hit on 3+ if they're stationary, which is concerning. Every time I've looked at building a Twilight Kin list, I look at Ravagers, because it's like, man, 16 attacks that, I can park them, and that is a nasty bubble of threat that they can do. And then they can charge. Ogre Boomers. Yeah.
And Decimators, same thing.
Right. So really genuinely scary kind of potentials for what's there. Decimators are another one I've seen people mention. Yes, for sure.
I've got them sitting over here built. So
yeah. And it's a good unit, so you don't want to take it away too much. Shooting is difficult because it's a game that is supposed to be rank and flank, movement, strategy, and that's how you want to sell it. You want it to be something that you're telling people they can play a game where positioning is very important, where the big bonuses for your melee attacks come from flanks and rears and all that kind of thing. So how do you find a nice balance? One of those things was to adjust nerve and the waiver mechanic. I'm sorry, my camera bounces because it tries.
Which I love. You're good, man. You're good. I love that mechanic. I continue, sir.
Yeah, the waiver mechanic, I think, does help it. Like you mentioned at the start, it puts you in that place where you're not necessarily taking a unit off the board, so it doesn't have the feel bad moment. But there is this still devastating potential, especially in a game where it's supposed to be about movement and positional strategy, that
Right.
something that's wavered is can be devastating. Like it can mess you up so bad, especially if you can't get around the unit. Um, One of the things that I shared with Matt, Alessio, and the testers at a later point in the process was I did the math and built it out into a matrix. So it compared
Yeah.
version 3 and version 4, and this was at a time when we were deciding if wavering could be affected by inspiring, because we felt that there would be nasty potential in what comes out there. So I sent you an image. If you could
Yeah.
bring it up, I think it's worthy to look at.
Right there.
So what this is basically, you'll see the top column giving an example. On that very left is the nerve stat of the unit in version 4, because it's one number now, and then the percentage chance to get a waiver based on the damage that they have going across the right. And obviously you've got some really high percentages all the way up until the unit routes, when the damage on the unit meets the nerve and it's devastated.
Oh yeah.
So it that those values, the chance to waver, is significantly higher than what it was in version 3, because you had that 2-point gap. So what you saw
Mhm.
in version 3 was that you would have these low odds at the early numbers and then a pretty solid even number um, at a certain point, but then it would go down as your chance to route would go up. So just an interesting look at where waiver possibility was. And even putting inspiring on wavering only nudged those numbers ever so slightly. Uh,
Right.
it didn't do a whole lot, but it does help. So, the chance to waver, first of all, is devastating, even if the chance to route isn't that big. So yeah, I mean, it basically moved that middle line that was in V3, where the route started to go down, and brought that red up, so that the chance of something bad happening for the unit was similar. You just took the route potential and changed it. So this
Right.
was an interesting, thing that we looked at early in the process. Uh, if for people who say that shooting still isn't powerful, to me, I think it's crazy powerful. It's really, really, really strong. So there's tremendous potential in just the way that the core rules work, with the +1 to hit, with the way that certain units have their stats, the range stat being a base of 4+, and then on top of that, when certain factions have nasty combos like enthralls and other things that might not even be out yet, uh,
Right.
there are ways to make shooting very good, and we see that with Trident Realm, which is one of those full lists, that came out in the fully developed book with Invasion. Uh, yeah, it's an interesting debate, but to me, it's very strong because it has so much potential to
Mhm.
affect the game. I think what Alessio wanted was for shooting to feel kind of how it did historically, where it didn't necessarily make units, fall apart from death. They would slow down. They would not have as quick of an advance. You could redirect them from shooting, or at the very end maybe pick off stragglers, that kind of thing. And I think that
Right.
was achieved for sure.
Oh
But
yeah.
it's in Kings of War and a lot of tabletop games, everybody's going to try to push for the most effective thing that they can do.
Right.
So is a very fine line. And shooting has been that way in Kings of War forever. I know you're fairly new to Kings of War, but I mean, they're going back even into second edition that I was a part of and saw, shooting was just nasty. I played Twilight Kin then, and every single game I had a horde of crossbows that
Mm.
I would give them the Brew of Keen Eyeness that gave them +1 to hit. So we had 3+ shooting. At that
Wow.
time they had elite. Um,
Right.
you could give Bane Chant worked on
Oh yeah.
spells, so or on shooting to give piercing. So it's it's always been a thing, and it's always kind of gradually gotten less and less effective. But then one tournament, the guy blows it up with River Guard, and everyone's like looking at it. They're like, "Oh, hey, this actually could be devastating. Look what I can do in Kingdoms of Men."
Well, my thing I've noticed, so I've recorded quite a few games and I've played quite a few already, and I have elves. I play elves, and I do not go without at least 3 regiments of shooting. I don't go any less than that. And I've found that the Glade Stalkers, especially because they're elite combat,
Yep.
or even though they
Yep.
got a low defense, if you play them defensively and everything else offensively and give them bark skin,
Yep.
they survive and they put down a lot of shots. They've actually finished off units that finished me off.
Yeah.
You know, so because if you're devastated and you're shot at, you're routed off the table. You
Yeah.
know, unless you get a double one, which happens to us all the time. Those double ones. But I see now, and it was before the whole River Guard incident, that I wanted to make, even in 3rd edition, an EOD list that was more archers and more shooting and, you know, having more fun with that. But then I thought, oh, well, I'm just going to be shooting people off the table. Well, now to me, I've seen the wavering be so much more of a factor in a game, whether it's won or loss, not just the routing. I think it's because they stay on the table. I saw a tactic. Other Aaron, he's one of our guys that plays. Other Aaron, he had I mentioned you, Aaron. Remember that. So he had Chris, one of our members. Thank you, Chris. Had a unit of knights, a Basilian knights, and they were coming up on the left flank against a unit of riflers, halfling riflers. They could go toe to toe and take them with the Thunder's Charge and all that. Well, he shot him with the rifles, wavered that unit, had Lancers side charge them, and they were gone.
Yeah.
So that wavering, stopping them in their tracks, is very effective. Whether it's not necessarily deadly, but it sets up things too. If you can waver something in the front, like in the middle, even a horde, if you can waver them, it makes a difference. So when I focus fire on the hordes, and it stops them in their tracks, and then they have to go around it. Now, historically, the videos that I have put on here that I've played, I haven't shown anybody that, but that's kind of my tactic now, is just take the nastiest one, like doppelgangers or something like that, Ravengers, waver one of them, especially if they're trying to run that spear. You waver one of them, it screws the whole thing up and gives you more time to come in. Now, that's strategy-wise. Winning the game, however, wavering late in the game is insanely important.
Yeah.
It was before with them getting routed off the table, but if you can use a wavered unit as a block,
you know, use it as a block, they reduce their unit strength. So there's a lot there. There's a lot of potential for what you can achieve with it. You take something. I think another aspect I didn't mention earlier, but Blood Boil is one of the spells that Blood Boil, I think, really makes it devastating if you want to spike damage on somebody. Shooting, I think, has always been about focus firing. You pick a target and you want to get rid of it, or you want to make sure that you get to a reasonable roll to waver. And
elf mage with elite Blood Boil.
Yeah. Oh. Blood Boil was a little bit more, it was rarer, you know, in 3rd. It was on selective units, and now it's sort of just there in the Arcane Library, and it makes it a potential. I in my opinion, if there were anything to change shooting to steer it away from the route potential, it would be to limit Blood Boil in some way, shape, or form. And I know you can it's already limited because it's in the library, but it's, you know, I don't know. That's the thing that can really spike stuff, and it's nasty. You don't want to take away fun toys, because I mean, what a cool spell. And I've always been gravitated towards it. Like, I'm like, if I'm taking shooting, Blood Boil just seems like such a great pairing.
Or even AC. I mean, AC
Alchemist
is,
Curse
is and I got those two confused last game. I meant to take Blood Boil, and I took Alchemist Curse, and I was playing it as if it was Blood Boil, not Alchemist Curse. So I screwed that up, but it's all right. I fixed it. But having an Alchemist Curse mage and a Blood Boil mage and you got a shooty army like elves and they're elite. It's kind of it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's fun. I still get beat, but sorry to interrupt you. Go ahead.
No, you're good. My whole thing is that I think that spellcasters, champion warlord doesn't matter, but spellcasters are in this supremely good spot in fourth edition, especially at the start, because they've got access to commands, they've got access to spells, and it just feels like they can do so much, and their efficiency is through the roof. To me, when you limit the amount of charges that you can make per facing, combat characters become less influential and they seem extra expensive. So you put this combination of what a spellcaster can do. I'm now looking at armies and from the spellcaster's perspective, what they have in their lists as far as, okay, what do I, if I want to build a new army, if I want to, start collecting something, I look at those options first. And
right.
Twilight Kin's one that I played in third, and I haven't really played it in fourth, but every time I look at them, I'm just like, man, the Summoner Crones seem really good. The Navigator seems really good because of what it can do. Those support characters just seem to have so much weight into the game. And, there's a lot there that complements shooting, but to me, I don't know. Is it too good? Is it not good enough? I think that it probably falls somewhere on the line that it's still slightly too good, just because of the combination. So to me, I wouldn't change the core rules. I wouldn't change like the +1 to hit, nothing like that. I think the core rules are in a fantastic place, and I'm biased on that, but I really think they're good. And what I'd be careful of is the balancing of what can be given to units from magical artifacts, commands, or even spells. Yeah, gastromancy, any of those extra supplemental places that can take something over the edge. We're going to see in the FAQ with the River Guard that they haven't been paying for shooting. If you saw it, there was a leak that came from the Australia Clash of Kings because they had it. It's a significant points increase for that unit if they take the javelins. So, I mean, it's steep, but we also see that like there's the, what are they called? The Wranglers in Twilight Kin.
Oh yeah,
so
the Wranglers.
It's a speedy unit that has a ranged attack, and they're 205 points, something like that, I think, for the regiment. Right. So because they are already paying for that ranged attack, and then there's some units that 155, I think, for like Icekin Hunters, in that ballpark that are they don't have piercing, but they do have range. So it seems like piercing shooting has a heck of an upcharge where not necessarily the standard shooting, the Zerkali hunters, they are no piercing, and it's a unit that to me probably should have piercing, but
it's just like the elves have just plain shooting in most of their units. There's no piercing unless you get to like crossbows or rifles or stuff like that. So I've noticed that with the elves, their bows are pretty effective with the elite already. If you were to give them piercing, it'd be even worse. But it's like giving them rerolling ones and giving them vicious too. So I mean, it's piercing is definitely. I know exactly what you're talking about. It really adds a deadly element to shooting itself. And there are units that I found that don't have it, don't really need it. But if they had that extra punch, they'd be pretty deadly. Like, was the Decimators I was talking about earlier?
Yep.
I think they're 14-inch piercing one, but they have the same armor profile as two-handed weapon Abyssal Dwarves. I always take a horde of those. So, and I've noticed that too. Hordes are much more significant and prevalent.
I think
with the shooting.
Yeah, hordes are great. It's in any profile, they were definitely encouraged. You want to try to push players to taking those kind of units, because in third we had their infantry wasn't as prevalent, and the game I think can function really interesting when you have hordes on the table as well. The unit strength bonuses they have, the attack bonuses they have, the nerve bonus they have, even just the footprint that they have is all significant when you're looking at hordes as an option. And with the whole withdrawal mechanic and not being disordered, I've seen some people, there's so many elements that are different to it. You can draw a line of sight from anywhere on the base. Right. It's not just from the leader point. You can withdraw, you're not disordered.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Awesome. Even if you can withdraw with units behind you and then they become wavered, but the feint rule like that too. I've been trying to make that mechanic work. There's so many awesome things with the new 4th edition that I absolutely love. And I'm glad it has like the reform action where, and if you engage with one unit, you're touching the other unit. We had the situation where you were engaged. Sorry to get off topic here, but you were engaged with Ravengers, but your horde is touching another unit of Ravengers.
Mm-hmm.
And the Palace Guard wiped out those Ravengers, but I was still in contact with this unit, but I wasn't engaged with them. So our argument was that I could reform into their side.
Mm.
But I can't reform because I'm not engaged.
Right.
So therefore I would just have to do a pivot and then engage them. But the way it was played on the video, we played it as if I was still engaged with them. I just got to sit there. Right. So, little things like that. Oh, okay. So I could have done that and it would have been a different game. So figuring those things out, like with the shooting, will take time, but like with the river guard and everything else, we'll figure it out.
But there's so many things you could have done in the past, like a troop of gargoyles flies up and lands right in front of the leader point of the unit.
Oh, yeah.
An inch away, they block line of sight effectively, or at least provide cover. And now because you draw line of sight, like if it's a horde base we were talking about, they're wider than that troop of gargoyles and they could just look past them.
Right.
And maybe that angle doesn't have cover. There's there's so many different ways to go about it that there's all those layers of potential and all those ways that they're beneficial. You've got the units like that do have feint. There was a lot of thought and process that went into designing units that would have that, especially light cavalry. That was sort of the thought for that rule. That was the unit that had it because, I mean, you have heavy cav, you have light cav. You can fall into this trap where one of them is just blatantly better. And if that's the case, why wouldn't you take the other one? So they have to perform a different strategic role to be appealing. And I think feint does that. The speed does that. Ranged attacks do that.
Right.
That heavy cavalry doesn't have. And I think ultimately that's what Kings of War players are hoping for. They want units that give them tools in a toolbox. And probably some of some of the problems that I've seen people have with the current state of the list is that it seems like there are more tools in more places in some armies than there are in others. Maybe some commands are too strong. Orcs are getting this huge resurgence because of the Green Rage rule. So I get it. To me, they deserve it. Orcs need a day in the sun. I mean, what a cool army.
And their footprint is bigger. Yeah.
The footprint's bigger. It's cool. It's hard. And I know you're a huge fan of Champions, and the rules there are a little bit more extreme,
Mm-hmm. A little bit.
Just a bit.
So it's fun, so
that thematic flavor I think is really cool. It helps push things.
I think the themes like what Ronnie was talking about before, and I believe I've heard you say it too, but as far as like each army getting its own flavor, I'm feeling that. Like I'm seeing it. Even in Champions, I was sort of seeing the flavor of each army, and I know when more come out, we'll see more of that as well. The commands are perfect. I love that. And every list I have has, like we were talking about earlier, has some sort of major warlock in it now.
Yeah.
Because you have that dual purpose hero, right? You look at your warlord now and you're like, well, he only does one thing. But some of them unlock more things. Anyway, it's just all around. I just feel like that the four armies that came out, they have a theme now. They feel like their own independent army that can do certain things. I mean, the halflings, especially, because that was my first one that I started. The gastromancy and Mama Beta, there's no way you wouldn't take one because she rolls 3 dice and can throw an extra gastromancy spell of either brutal, life leech, and I forgot what the other one was. A regiment of braves stays alive the whole entire game, taking on 3 units of corsairs. I mean, with life leech and brutal every other turn. So they have that flavor to them, and I love that. I absolutely love that. I love that 4th edition has done that. And I think that as we see Fracture, we'll see more of that. And the other books, we'll see more of that individuality of the armies.
I wanted to push it way further. I didn't do a whole lot with the list designs themselves, but like when we were talking about it, and the first place with the list, they were taken from 3rd basically as they were, and we used the 3rd lists to test the early 4th rules, and then the list slowly started to get attention and developed. And one of the things that I suggested that they do was basically if you were an army that had a special rule as an identity, so Iron Resolve for Basileans or Headstrong for Dwarves, those rules would almost exclusively be found in their lists. So
right.
And then you would have commands that would maybe benefit them. So Basileans could have Iron Resolve that would, work in a bigger, better way through a command. But you would not have Iron Resolve on Steel Juggernaut. It wouldn't be found in another list. You would pretty much attach a special rule to a faction, and they would live that special rule. And I felt like that could be a really cool way to push the flavor. And it was more like that in 2nd edition. But they did not go with my suggestion. I like having individual armies. To me, Kings is very similar to chess in the sense that movement and positioning can work out that way. I think the better player will typically win in Kings of War, and my personal goal would be to have as little list building dominance potential as possible. So you take out list building, whether it's shooting or otherwise, and reduce that, but make it so that if things are as balanced as they can be, you have to make the pieces that are available fit in a way that if someone is piloting them correctly, they have just as good of a chance as anyone else that was piloting a different army with different rules for different flavors. But you want each faction to feel uniquely them. I think orcs are nailing that, like I mentioned right now. I think that Trident Realm definitely has a good bit of that right now with Snare, with the Enthrall stuff that they've got going on, even with the changes to the River Guard unit. There's a good vibe of what they do there.
Well,
so
halflings, sure. Yeah, they got that flavor too.
Yeah, I think the hope is that with each of the books as they release, that individuality shines through a little bit more. But I still would have restricted it way more than what we got.
Yeah, I mean, I guess so. But I love how cheeky, tongue in cheek, this game is. I like how it's traditionally fantasy. There's some fun things to it. Like I called my War Beast pig Pancake and the other one Waffle. I can do that kind of stuff. And I can create a story on the base. That's like chess. Yeah, the game's like chess, but it's chess with, your own unique flavor to it. And I'm a painter by heart. I mean, that's what I love I love the game, but I love painting more sometimes. I'll say sometimes. Some people would argue with that, but I just love putting that individuality in each base, having kind of a little background on my guys, and giving them all names. The capability to do that in your list as well. They become alive on the table. So, and circling back to the shooting thing, when Otto and his force would come forward and get shot off the table, Otto would take that as vengeance for the next time around and be like, okay, we're going to focus on that unit the next time so I still spin it in a store, but you kind of get a little upset. You're like, that's a beautiful base and it got shot off the but now that it gets wavered, you're like, great.
You were telling me that you were having a hard time. You were trying to talk to people, and one of their resistances to the game was that they felt the shooting wasn't strong enough.
Yes, that's one of the things that I hear I think there's other things I hear, but that's the most common thing that has been talked about in fourth edition. That when people approach me as a Pathfinder and they say, "Hey, I bought a Champions box, but I don't know if I really want to get into fourth because of the whole shooting thing." And I go, "What do you mean shooting thing?" Because I want to know what they're saying.
Sure.
And they're talking about how they totally nerf shooting and it's not fun anymore because of that and all that. And my counteract to that is oh no, it's definitely still a factor, and for the reasons why. But that's probably the most common thing that Aaron and I get from people is that, well, they nerf shooting. And another thing, I forgot what the other thing was, but yeah, so that's the most common thing. So
it's interesting because there's probably a lot of outside perspectives that come from noise and not
right.
necessarily truth. And the unfortunate thing about the internet especially is that you listen to the person speaking. If there's a lot of people talking about one thing, that's what people hear, and if they don't have their own opinion on it, they tend to just kind of listen or latch on to what other people are saying. I think that maybe what they're trying to say is either they're used to games that they play a strong shooting profile in. Maybe they play 40K, maybe they play bolt action, who knows. And they are used to shooting being a strong mechanic, and they see Kings of War as just a movement, fighting melee combat game. And then they hear things online, or they join something like Fanatics and they look at comments or what's being posted, and they form an opinion based on what people say. So it's hard because those things can be damaging, and our community is typically just trying to talk about it. They're just trying to have a conversation, but they don't understand how many, potentially thousands of people are forming an opinion on the game based on that conversation. So that's a challenging thing. I think, the work that Pathfinders have to do with trying to sell the game, and really in my mind, everyone that plays Kings of War should be a Pathfinder in spirit. You're trying to grow the game that you love. You're trying to pull people into it as much as possible. And if there are barriers and obstacles, if I could give anything from the Mantic perspective, is we have to hear about that stuff, because it has to get through to the people who are listening to make changes and put it into place. I know that you're good friends with Josh LaFoon.
Josh the LaFoon. He hasn't
Josh
been out here yet.
He's on the new, whatever it's called, the core playtesting group. It's the rules committee and everything, but a new name. They just don't have to be responsible for writing stuff anymore. Where, before, when there was a Clash of Kings book, the rules committee would basically write the whole book. That's not how it works anymore. So these guys give feedback and are able to guide the direction of the game by working on those things and collecting it. So as we're all out there trying to recruit new players, if there is a barrier, something like shooting doesn't seem powerful enough. There's so many ways that you go about that, because you're trying to understand, okay, well, what kind of army did they want to play? Like a Kingdoms of Men gun line? Did they want, all rifles and cannons? And that's the kind of vibe that they were thinking of. Right. Did they think elves were going to be that way? Did they have an impression from another game system where, I think that in Warhammer Fantasy, elves had a lot more of a shooting and magical dominance sort of opinion, and King's War isn't necessarily that. Has been at times, that's for sure. So it's understanding those things, but also knowing that the game is way more nuanced than just that. So yeah, I mean, shooting is one angle, but there could be a lot of angles that are similar to that. They could fall in the same vein,
Well, I try to tell them shooting is, if not, it's the same, if not better, in my mind, and not for the reason that, you don't get shot off the table. It adds an extra element to the game. I'm partial to champions, but I always start them off as say, look, go buy a champions box. It's 500 points about thereabouts, and we can play champions, or we can go and play, a game of Kings of War. If you don't like it, you're out such and such money. And, if you don't have fun, and I haven't had one person yet that has bought one or has tried champions, because I demo it every month up at the store. There's not one person that has told me they don't like it. And then when I tell them, when I tell them, hey, this isn't how it works in fourth, you get wavered instead of, you know, getting shot off the table.
Yeah.
They like that.
Right.
They're like, oh, that's much better than, like, see, from that perspective, seeing it firsthand, it happened on the table, and then transferring them, saying, hey, wavering works like this, they'd still be an effective unit on the table, but they would not be able to do anything. And your opponent would have a chance to move, into position to, take care of it.
Yeah.
Or take care of that wavering unit, or get out of their charge range for a turn, or what have you. It puts it in more of a moving perspective. But if they're have enough wounds put on them, they're wavering, you can shoot them again. You can waver them again.
Yeah.
So you could effectively, if you just focus fire on that one nasty unit the whole game, you could effectively waver them every turn. And that's even more deadly because now you have a unit that can't do nothing, So, I mean, that crushing strength 3 thunderous 1 guy or whatever he is, it's on that table. You focus fire on him, he's out of the game, So a lot quicker, and we can argue too that in the previous edition, same thing could happen, except you could shoot him off the table.
Sure.
But it's still the same, but it's putting a roadblock in the middle of the table. And that's kind of the way I've looked at it. It's just, okay, now he's wavering, he's roadblock now. This stops their advance, this halts them, stuff like that, and when you're explaining it to somebody, you just keep it simple and say, just try it.
I mean, the way I see it is, imagine if a piece puts a king in check in chess, and you could just shoot him and waver him and take the check away. Like, you don't even have to move to do it. There's interesting things that Kings of War is so much more nuanced and complex in that sense. Not complex rules wise, but complex in the potential of what you can get with a unit and how you put your pieces together. I think that there's a lot of conversation or thought process that goes into how much do you invest into shooting, right? How many points in your army, is there a percentage, is there a certain thing? And there's some units that I would look at their shooting profile and say, even at their points, that's not worth it to me. If their range stat is a 6+, and even if they've got average range, I'm hesitating. Just at base. Yeah. I'm hesitating because I could see the potential, but there's an extra step, right, where the second you see a unit that's got a 4+ stat, it's like, oh, okay, this is a legit tactic that my army has access to. Right. Shooting is a thing for me.
And elves should be shooty, and goblins should not. Sure. In flavor sense too. So that makes sense. Towards that point, elves should. I mean, they're good at shooting. I mean, what movie have you not seen where elves are not good at shooting? So, and right, it makes sense to me that, and you're like what you're saying. If I see a 5+ shooting, I kind of go, okay, this is kind of a mixed bag. But if I see a dual purpose unit like the Sea Guard, I go, oh, okay, that could work because right, they're 4+ defense rather than the Glade Stalkers. But the Glade Stalkers have elite both ways, and right, the Sea Guard only has it one way. So you right, have to factor in all those things. And I play the heck out of elves right now, so I'm kind of biased to that. So now, as far as halflings go, their shooting's kind of, depends on what style you want to play, and their flavor is either the Pride of the Shires, or it's Tinkertech, or it's the other thing. You combine them all together, they're a good, run of the mill kind of, how do I put it? Just normal, average, kind of a little bit of everything. But if you go heavy one way or the other, they become better in that or better in the other. And I think that the halflings are balanced pretty perfect that way.
Yeah.
And I haven't played the Zerkali yet. I want to get them so bad, but as most Kings of War players, I'm kind of backlogged. So I got Twilightkin still in the box down here. So, I'm working on ogres right now. I'm finishing up with my elves. I got halflings, I got abyssal dwarves, and it's, Zerkali will come. It's that's the thing,
It's a good time to plug the slow grow, at least.
Right. Well,
You know,
that's kind of where I was going. Good
yeah.
job.
Uh,
um, my community, we got 10 people. We got 10 people that are all involved. I just had a video I put up yesterday of my slow grow. I'm doing 2 armies, not one,
mhm.
2. And you know, it's 500 points. It's a company box. It's a champions box. If that's where
Yep.
you want to get started, Mr. LaFoon, who you've mentioned, and
Mhm.
myself and Aaron are going to be doing a video on how you can turn your champions army into a 4th edition army. And we're going to go through every single one of the champions armies and show you where you can plug them in at.
That's cool.
So, you know, it's a good time for slow grow. Pick a champions box, paint it up. It's 500 points. It's a 3x3. You can still have fun playing Kings of War. You don't have to play the ambush level. You can have a warlord in there. It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, seriously,
Yeah.
we will do that. And slow grow is 500 points. Buy a company box. You can get it easily painted. There's between 22 and depending on if you want to play goblins or halflings, there may be 30, but there's not a lot to paint. And with speed paints out now, it's real easy to do, especially by March 20th. Submit your list with the hashtag that they provided in the blog, and I will pop up the little pop up here so you guys can see it. It's week 1, or I'm sorry, part 1, part 2, 3, and 4. 24 weeks. You got 2,000 points. It's, you know, for me, I'll have 4,000, but that's just because I'm a fast painter, you know. So it's just, I think it's a great thing that Mantic is doing, and I'm going to let Kyle say a little bit about it because otherwise I will continue to talk about it and not shut up. So
No, it's all good. I
love it.
think that you want to try to recruit. It's a new edition. The worst thing that happened at the start of 3rd edition is we launched it in October of 19, and it was the October of 19. So obviously what happened less than 6 months from that was COVID
Oh yeah,
and new edition, and then just everybody can't go to game stores and all that kind of stuff. So this time around, we're hoping, you know, knock on wood, that nothing catastrophic happens to the world, you know, economy and the way that people are trying to enjoy themselves,
right.
and that we can get a good launching point for 4th edition, because to me it's a very good game that's in a very good place, and what we really need is just more people getting eyes on it. So slow grow is a great way to do that. It's a great way to introduce people to a faction. It's a great way to, you know, those champion boxes. What's nice is that you can pick that up for a fairly easy cost. You've got a cool character for the army. You've got some pretty essential units, and it gives you a taste of what that army is like. So if you're not sure you want to go about it with them, to me, it's an easy way to say, is this for me or not, before I commit fully into the whole thing. Like a champions box
Right.
is a great way to do it. You don't have to buy the $200, you know, $700, $500, whatever it is, huge everything all at once. And some people are going to do that anyway. That's the kind of
Right.
person that I am. I'm like, well, I think I want to play them, so I'm going to do it.
Guilty.
Yeah. Yeah. There's always those nutters, but for a new player, like that can be intimidating, because fantasy wargaming has a huge barrier to entry. You know, it's tons of models. Everything in the market right now that's successful and popular are skirmish and tiny model counts, very quick play experiences. And while Kings of War is fast for a full scale war game, it's still a process. I mean, the time
Right.
it takes to build and present an entire army is a long thing for a lot of people. I'm not a fast painter. I like how paint looks when I'm done with it, and I feel proud of it, but I generally hate to paint. I do not enjoy the process. Like, it hurts my back, it hurts my neck. I go back and forth on color schemes. I try something out, I don't like it, I throw that model away. I
Right.
stop for 2 weeks while I try to figure out something different. And because obviously it's my job, it feels like work when I go sit down to
Right.
paint. It's not an escape for me so much anymore. So it's,
Understandably.
yeah. What motivates me to paint is I'm going to a tournament pretty much exclusively.
Mhm.
Like, I say, you know what, I haven't played this army in a tournament before. I'm going to do that. I'm going to make it happen. And
Right.
I will backlog it. I don't have a slow grow kind of pace. I have a nothing, everything the 3 weeks before the event.
Right.
and then I hate myself, so it's not a very enjoyable experience because I've painted everything all at once. So different strokes for different folks. We
Right.
all go about it in a different way. But a
Well,
slow
me,
grow is a nice invitation.
right, and I'm just trying to get armies painted to play on the table to record
Yeah,
for everybody. So my motivation is there. Otherwise, like I'd be like that, where there'd be nothing for a little while. But I'm actually, this is the most motivated I've ever been about any game, and this is where my caveat to what I just said is I've never had a fully painted army ever in the 20 years that I've painted miniatures.
mhm.
So for me, this game is that good for me, and I'm that
That's
excited
impressive.
and motivated
Yeah,
for it. So I painted all the champions armies for crying out loud. So
yeah,
for me, it's got me not just the filming aspect, but it's off camera I play. So I've never done that either. So,
yeah,
I was heavily involved in a few other games like Beyond the Gates and all that other stuff, but I've never had the motivation like I've had for this game and what you see on the table. And once you finish it, even though it was a grind like you do or not, once you finish it and
yeah.
see it, you really care about it on the table.
Oh
It's
yeah.
kind of a weird, not attachment, not attachment, so
Yep.
you're proud of it. It's like a painting you put together, so that's my perspective on that. But you can get that same experience. I know you probably have had that too, but
Oh yeah. The,
you're like,
the,
wow.
I mean, I've got a shelf that's next to me on my desk that's got armies on it, which is
Right.
great, and I look at them all the time. It's a cool thing to have miniatures on display and to have them, and I think that's why you go to a tournament, you see people with display boards, and paint is such an important part of Kings of War tournament scoring, at least in the U.S. Um, it's part of how we identify hobby heroes, champions of the game itself. So what you're doing is very commendable. And to stay on the topic of shooting,
Yeah,
uh,
I know.
it it, uh, it's something that obviously you spend time on a unit, you fall in love with it, and somebody just picks up a unit at the start of the game.
Mhm.
It can hurt. I remember playing against Josh LaFoon at Adepticon,
Ooh,
and
calling Josh out.
he picked up my Necromancer with a Blizzard, like turn one, and I had plans
Oh,
for that. I had plans for that Necromancer, and it was my mistake. I left him hanging out there that he could see him, but at the same time, like I had plans, and it disrupted the whole game for me because like I use that Necromancer. It's such a subtle. I mean, you heard me talk about support pieces and how I see them. It
oh
was the
yeah.
same back in third edition. So I had plans, and that lost me the game. Like, I mean, I'm sure I made other mistakes, but I remember feeling like my mental state dropped like 3 levels because it was just boom off the board, and nothing I could do. If it was wavered turn one, I don't really care. Like, he's not doing anything turn one anyway. But
Right.
when Blizzard drops on a hero and picks it up turn one, that sucks. So
Mhm.
there are some good things about it, but if you've got a beloved unit or a centerpiece unit, and obviously that's going to draw a lot of fire, it's going to draw a lot of attention, and somebody
Right.
just picks it up right at the start, and you don't even get to play with it, it kind of sucks. And I think wavering can apply there too. It can be a feel bad moment, but you're not totally out of it with wavering. There's still a
Right.
chance.
You
So
still got a chance. You can throw a spell like Headstrong or I'm sorry, Command Headstrong like the elves can, or if
yeah,
there's things you can still do to counteract, but they're still on the table. So
yeah. It
yeah,
makes headstrong a reasonable, item to want to have.
right,
Uh, and I think
Dwarven
new
Ale,
players, yeah,
you know,
I think new players look at the game, and they don't necessarily click with the movement mechanics and strategy. And that's something that definitely takes time to learn, and a lot more time to master. I am by no means as good as some of the people out there. Like I barely even get to play anymore, and when I see some people do some of the things they do, it's impressive, and it feels cool, and it feels over my head at times. They're seeing the game in a way that I don't see it, and I love that the game can be that deep. But a new player doesn't necessarily, I think they understand it exists, but they don't necessarily understand how to achieve it themselves. So one of the easy things they can do is pick up shooting, and it's a point and click effectiveness. It's here we go. I see your unit. I can attack them from a distance. I'm still safe back here. There's a number of ways to go about it, but that matters to a new player that wants to get into the game and not feel completely intimidated by the potential for them to roll up against Magnus Carlsen on the table and get steamrolled. And that's where I think there could be new player intimidation from shooting, that they feel like, if they took away something that could have been easy for me. I feel like all this is subconscious too. It may not even be something they're actively thinking about, but it's if a tool was lessened in their mind, they may be more intimidated, on top of how much they have to paint, on top of uncertainty of army identity, all these things that we talked about, to not know how to get into it. So how important is it to get it right and to feel like you can bring a new player into the game and they feel excited about their potential to do well? Because even if you're having fun with the game, all of us really, you want to do well. And Kings of War is a kind of game that is definitely competitive. It's less narrative in the full scale Kings of War than it is in something like Champions. And because it has a reputation as a tournament game, and it's that sort of hardcore players, there's big intimidation factor with this. And I think that you can kind of spin the game. This is my personal opinion. It's obviously why Mantic doesn't approach it this way, but I think you can approach the game in sort of how they marketed like Dark Souls, where it's like prepare to die, was the tagline for the video game Dark Souls. And I think that you could market it to war gamers who really want to feel like they can develop a strategy and a synergy with an army that fits them. Because what you ultimately want out of the game, in my opinion, is you can pick an army that you like the look of, that you like the minis of, that you like the feel or the general rules or the theme style, whatever you want to call it, and develop a list that matches your play style over repetitions and time and learning. And once you've done that, you can be competitive with anybody in the world. I think that's the ultimate goal. But there's these barriers of intimidation, of painting, of all that stuff. And one thing I'd love to see more of in the community or our marketing, whatever it is putting out these like puzzle situations of how to move pieces, or this unit can shoot you cleanly without cover. Where do you move to protect them best? Or, just interesting ways to kind of solve the puzzles of the game that happen turn after turn that you're trying to figure out. Because I think that if we want to entice new people to get into the game, if we show them how to think about it, it can be an exciting prospect. Because you don't really understand that until you're already in a game and playing it and seeing the potential. I know the level of excitement that I feel when I see a flank that my opponent didn't see, or if I see that a unit is going to stick and bounce and it opens up a flank, or if there's this discovered flank after a unit gets picked up. The kind of like butterflies that I get is a little disturbing. And I think that there's a lot of people that feel that way, and that's the kind of addictions that get you into the game. For some people, those butterflies might be when they roll their cannon shot and it's a 2-shot blast D3 +2, and they roll 2 6s to hit and then 2 6s to blast, and the whole, like they feel the potential. So we're all chasing those little dopamine hits of excitement that we get when we're trying to play the game and figure out what we enjoy about it, what we get out of it. And shooting is one of the only things in the game that can lead to a feel bad, result. So if you get flanked, I feel like you kind of see that and you go, oops, I did that, you know,
You got me.
or yeah, or they were good enough. They set that up and like, wow,
Right.
that was impressive. That was cool that you pulled that off. You don't want it to feel cheap, like the rules gave them the flank from some weird wonky mechanic, which what we saw with things like the corkscrew charges, and you know, it
Yeah.
felt like kind of unearned, even though it was just technically reading between the lines of the rules themselves to see something that was possible. Um, so shooting is it's tough because it has the potential to just make you go, well, that wasn't fun. Like they just took my unit off the board and I didn't
Right.
really do anything. I didn't think about it. They didn't think about it. They just rolled dice and now my unit's gone. So I think King's of War wants to try to avoid that, but it's a fine line to walk.
I totally agree. And that excitement, I keep chasing myself. Uh, Shooting is like feels unearned because you're just rolling dice and it's the luck of the dice, whether units wavered or what have you. But when it comes to that flank or that rear charge, well, if I fly over this unit thinking 3 movements ahead, if I fly over this unit and I'm able to turn around, his whole force is facing this way. My dragon riders can get them, and then you put yourself in that situation and they counteract it, so you can't get that rear charge anymore. It's that, to me, is the ultimate. That's my dopamine there. It's never been shooting, but I see what you're talking about, and maybe some people will get that with the shooting phase. Well, somebody will figure it out.
You can't tell me a Tau player in 40K doesn't get that. They don't. Yeah. They don't see the army and understand what they're good at and or what they're known for, and just say that's what I'm going to lean into. And so I think it's good to have an army in your lineup of factions that has an identity of shooting. I think that it helps draw that kind of player into your game. I think that it helps balance the game, because if shooting wasn't a threat at all, then everyone would kind of just trend towards the most effective combat strategy, and shooting has to keep things in check. And so both of those things need to happen in order to really have an appealing experience from the player base, and then to have a generally balanced game and flavor of gameplay experiences. Because there's some players that see a gun line and they're going to get dopamine from how they're going to shut that down systematically. And the thing that I've seen about shooting over the years with Kings of War is that if shooting is too strong, typically there are some adjustments that are made to it, but ultimately what happens is that players discover a strategy that shuts it down. And that becomes the thing that actually ends up preventing people from leaning too heavily into it. So when a player says, I know if I go to a tournament, I'm going to have a hard time winning with this very heavy shooting list. I might, and some people are fine with this. They might win 2 or 3 games out of a 5-game tournament, and they're okay with that, because what's going to happen is they're going to get into a matchup with somebody that is not prepared to shut down shooting, and they're going to win just based on overwhelming advantages, in the sense that, you don't have to be in charge range necessarily. You don't have to set up angles to be effective. So, some things, like we talked about early days of Kings of War 4th development, like we talked about, like allowing shooting to get flanks. Like if you shot from a flank arc, you could double the attacks. Yeah. So, I mean, certain things, what I'm saying is it could be worse.
Well, I guess we could just wrap this up. I did want to encourage everybody to leave in the comments their thoughts about shooting, whether they think it's deadly or not, or if you agree with us or disagree with us. Please leave it in the comments. If you have any questions for Kyle, please redirect them to me. I'm just kidding. Leave them in the comments too, and I'll let him know, and maybe he'll go on there and answer them as well. That's up to him, of course. Yeah, it was great talking to you, man. I think shooting is, like you said, even with the overlay that we put up there, I can see numbers-wise, it's even more deadlier than I thought.
Just of how it can affect the game is impressive.
Right. And
Yeah.
exactly. And we mentioned another thing that I haven't heard from anybody yet, but I've noticed it is, the spellcasters, how much
Mhm.
more important they are with the command system too. So I mean that could be a whole nother video, but
Yeah.
it's just in general, I think that shooting is essential in the game still. I think there's a spot for it. And I think it is a very good strategy of disrupting
Yes.
100% like it was before, disrupting the enemy unit that's coming at you. So,
Yeah.
I mean, I don't have any problems with shooting whatsoever. Edition. So, your final thoughts?
Yeah, I think the most important thing is that this video gets more views than anything that Ronnie was on. I really like to stick it to him. He gets really jealous when I'm more popular than he is. So, yeah, that's my
Well,
ultimate goal
thanks
in
for
life is
those.
to I will
Awesome.
personally promote this so that we get more views than what
Awesome.
it would with Ronnie.
Well, I appreciate you coming on, man, and I hope we have many more conversations. Maybe you can come back and we can talk about that very thing, about how spellcasters are more viable and commands. Are commands ridiculous or are they viable? So, that'll be up to you, of course. I'm always
Yeah, I'm
available.
going to come out and film some games with you too. I say that to a lot of people. I'm supposed to film with Rob Fanoof as well, and yeah, but we'll do it. I was supposed to film with Steve last month in the UK. Yeah,
Oh
it's
well, you'll get there. We'll
I'm a
we'll get
busy
you
guy.
there. Yeah, you are. Yeah, you are. All right, Kyle. We always say this on my channel. Ta ta. You say it?
Ta ta for now.